Well, you might be looking for a partner. You might, like my mum, be looking for a perfect partner. Well, her first one she went out with for 6 years and was with him in marriage only for 6 weeks before she realised that this just was not the one for her. And then she found my dad, who I see now, looking at his eyes in a photograph I had when they were first married, was a very loving, kind person. But she didn't see that later on. She did extremely well in worldly terms. I mean, he was wealthy. I expect in a way one of the wealthiest persons she would meet. And she would meet them because she was in a military town, the military town, Aldershot and Farnborough, during the Second World War. And he dominated the life that she then had, materially very good. But it set her up for something perhaps she didn't expect, which was a relationship with her son, Marshall. And she loved him to bits. And I know I was her world, everything to her, by the grace of God. And as you can see from this last terribly poorly recorded, I'm afraid, recording, I was sitting in the car waiting for school to finish, pick up the children, pick up my daughter and friends and so on. And I had the car speaker on instead of the phone. In other words, I was using Bluetooth. And the result was, if you like, an utterly toneless recording. But can't do much about it, or at least don't need to. If you listen carefully, you get it. And it's extremely short, isn't it? It's less than 2 minutes. But it's something about the essence of things, isn't it? And I found in these last night, the evening meeting I went to, philosophy group, that you can find what you need in life, in the broad picture of life, and also in the daily events. Quite simply, I suppose I can say God provides. And when you're really blessed, you find He's provided not in the way that you thought. You know, Mum as a young woman would not have thought her life was going to be loving her son. And I would not, as a secular person, have thought that my life was going to become, well, quite literally loving God, especially as Heavenly Dad, because, wow, my mum was so anti-men in a way that I would never idolize men. A man would be a woman, a bit like Paramahansa. He worships God as Divine Mother. So it's very strange. I was going to say, what do we do to achieve these astonishing dominant outcomes? I don't know if you need to do anything. A bit like my last recording. You let things come and go according to what they do. And you just find that God is taking you to your destiny that is appropriate, by which I mean in His will. That's quite wonderful. Let me pause. Yes, it crosses my mind that Mum, you see, born in a council house, very poor indeed. And, well, a violent dad and a very soft Catholic Christian mum. I think she despised men for being unkind and women for not being as beautiful as herself. So if you think of it, what was left to love? Children. Well, she only had one, so he got it. Marshall. How about Dad? Well, Dad was set up with everything from the beginning. I mean, wealthy family and an aunt living in the house. Always. I mean, his parents' house. Doting on him, providing everything he wanted. And what would he find? All that he lost would always come back to him. He ended up with his first wife again, after my mum for 18 years. And I think the last couple of years may have been, I think, extremely happy. I mean, a man who had always bought black cars, bought a big Volvo, yellow. Would you believe? I don't know much about his last year or two. But, I trust it was very good, returning to his first wife, them being together. I don't know. There's always uncertainty, isn't there? I mean, in this material life. I think I can say both parents had an extremely strong will, and Marshall had too, in the way that he addressed himself when, reached puberty and incredible dynamism in applying myself academically, in spite of being in a very non-academic start. But I can remember too that my great lesson was before that. And that probably stemmed from it too, which was that I could choose, unlike my mum, to be happy rather than suicidal. And so I did. And I could choose to not preoccupy myself with things like ghosts and poltergeist and frightening things, claustrophobia and so on. Do you see these two things together? I realized that you could control the mind, in a sense, and did. was known, as I said before, as happy by my class friends at school. And, well, I just seemed to happen upon a way of studying, anticipating what the questions would be in a class test or exam, giving the teacher the right answer. And it had a miraculous effect. Again, you see the happiness spilled over into difficult class teachers. I'm going to enjoy this chap's lessons, which meant, of course, I applied myself 100%. And then, of course, the difficult teachers thought I was a good student. And things started to go very well. I became a good student, in fact. How amazing. So strangely, my will was, as it turned out, by training with Mum, of course, neither attached to wealth nor career like my dad had been, which seemed to be wrecking the family. I mean, he didn't need a career, he had wealth. Strange, wasn't it? Suppose he needed to prove himself in business city, London, stockbroking field. And Mum, who valued looks, because they'd been such a winner for her, materially speaking, but it was clearly giving her no happiness. And Dad's career was clearly giving him no happiness at home, at least. So what came to be amazing will seemed to be focused inwards, you could say spiritually, I suppose. Even though both parents were in a sense very materialistic. Or because they were. And despite such then would find God, and did. Astonishing. I mean, conversion on a astonishing scale, presentation in some sense. I mean, my mum's popular saying, down to the depths or up to the throne, he travels fastest who travels alone. My extremely, as you can see from my recordings, individualistic approach to the spiritual life. But of course, if you think of it, one that's ideally suited to become, the word isn't quite appropriate, but expresses something of what I want to say, addicted to God. In that sense, I describe myself as a fanatic, despite the fact nobody can really fix me in any religion, of course. Specifically, I seem to be, in some ways, an enemy of all, and yet a blessing to all. Well, that's of course because I say of course, that's a bit arrogant, I don't mean to say that, but because I purpose to care for all people. Can I just say in passing, it doesn't seem related, but it comes to mind, the most important thing you can do in relating to others is listen to them. When they know you're fixed with your concentration on what they're saying, do you know that becomes everything to them? You are the person in the room they focus on, because they know you're following what they say. In a peculiar way, that speaks to them more than all the words you might have. When you do say something, my goodness, they listen. And it's best to be brief so you don't give them too much to have to cope with. It's a strange thing. Beware of what you desire, for you will surely have it. But by the grace and the goodness of God, it will bring you to, ideally, a realization what you truly value. Mum found that instead of a big house and husband with a car and posh career and so on, she ended up with council flat, second floor up, just two living rooms and a kitchen, bathroom. You would say very mean, but she found it was all she needed. It was entirely hers. It was freedom to be what she wanted to be. I'm not certain she realized by any means a very complex relationship with God, or a very intense one. She did considerable babysitting for a fairly well-off family that didn't have time for their little daughter. And that was an incredible blessing to Mum and the little daughter, I think, too. Libby was the daughter's name. She was very young. Young primary. And Mum was devoted to her like she'd been devoted to Marshall. So her last years were greatly blessed by another good relationship. And Dad, by his first wife, because Dad is faithful and true, and who else would he want if the second wife left him after 18 years? But the first wife, whom he only had for a few years, but he had for a couple more years, last in life. I don't suppose Dad found God, but he found what he loved. I don't mean he didn't love Mum, it's just that, well, it's not much good if they don't love you, is it? Let that be a lesson to you. Yes, you do wish to love someone with all your heart, but if they don't love you, you're wasting your time. Don't waste it. And in that regard, of course, I can say the obvious. It's never wasted on God, because he's faithful and true, loves you. And when you come to realize that, well, you've got it all, haven't you? Bless you. Thank you, Heavenly Dad.